Hey everybody, I'm Sin. Welcome to the Book Nook. Today we're going to be talking about my January wrap up. So for the month of January, I read 6 books, which I think is not too shabby. I feel like that was a good amount. I guess that's like what, one and something a week or something like that. We'll get started with the first one, which was what is happening? Why is that there? That's supposed to go over there. All right, we'll get started with the first one, which is Pan's Labyrinth. This was an adaptation of a movie into a book instead of like the other way around, because usually it's the movie is made from the book in most cases. And they did a really good job with this. I really enjoyed it. I thought that the book was definitely a bit more magical than the movie. The movie was still fantastic. The movie came out in 2006 and the book was 2019. And they did a really great job on it. I really enjoyed it. If you have seen the movie, I highly recommend the book and vice versa. And yeah, so that was one of the ones that I read for the month of January. That was a lot of fun to read, and it was cool to see the book from the movie adaptation, which was pretty neat. So the next one that I read was a horror book, and it was The Only Good Indians. This was a very interesting and scary book. I thought it was alright. It wasn't one that I loved, but I thought it was decent. The whole premise is basically there's a group of friends, and this is a Native American book. The author is Native American. There's a group of friends who had been out and hunting on lands that they were not supposed to be hunting on, and they ended up killing a bunch of elk, and this went horribly awry, and then the spirit of one of those elks comes back to seek her revenge. And that's the premise for this book. It was a pretty decent book. So yeah, that was another one that I read. So yes, The Only Good Indians. So the next one I read was A History of Wild Places. I loved this book. It was so freaking good. It follows the story of the main character, Travis, and he has this unique ability where he can find people. If he has an object that belongs to them, he can touch it and he sees what they have seen, and he has like taps into their memories, and he's able to track people down, and he has done this over the years. And there's the disappearance of this author, Maggie St. James, who's the author of these very dark and macabre children's books, and she disappears and has disappeared for 5 years. So he goes and he tries to find her, and it follows the story of that. And this was just a really great book that I loved, and there's already a standalone review that I did of this that you can look. I'll link it down in the channel if you would like to check that out. But I absolutely love this book. I thought it was fan-freaking-tastic. A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. Awesome book. Great read. So the next one is Blue Skin Gods by S.J. Sindu. This follows the story of a young boy, Kalki Sami. As he grows up, he is born with blue skin, and they think that he is the 10th incarnation of Vishnu, and he has to basically, when he reaches age 10, to pass these 3 tests to prove that he is the reincarnation of Vishnu. And he seems to pass these tests, but he questions it, and he questions everything, and it kind of like follows his whole life and his interactions with his family and his friends and growing up, and just, you know, trying to believe in himself, and is questioning, is he really a god, and all of that. And I also have a standalone review for this one. I'll link that down on the channel as well if you'd like to check it out, or maybe you've already seen it. But yeah, it's Blue Skin Gods. This was also an awesome read. I really loved it, and it was fantastic and highly recommended. So the next one up is Orwell's Roses. This is by Rebecca Solnit, and it is a non-fiction book. Rebecca Solnit was just a big fan of George Orwell and read a lot of his writings, his books, his papers, and she had found a essay that he had written about growth and gardening and planting trees and such, and she decided that she would go visit this cottage where he had spent a portion of his life to see if any of the plant life that he had planted fruit trees there, flowers and roses, and she wanted to go see if any of that still remained. And so she goes there, and only the roses are still there. And basically the book goes into George Orwell's life. It talks about that. It also talks about the symbolism of roses, and then the whole rose industry, and just, it's really fascinating. And then you get into kind of like Orwell's political views, and you get to see some of that, and like what kind of culminates up to him writing his famous book 1984. And that was also a really great read. There will be a standalone review for this one. I don't know if this video will be out first before it. I think it will. So I may or may not link this in the channel. I do not know yet. All right, and then the last book was Inspection by Josh Malerman. This book, it was wild and crazy. It was a very wild book. It follows the story of up in these woods. It's super secluded. There's these two towers, and they're 3 miles apart. And in one tower, there are 24 12-year-old boys, and they have been raised to not know that the female sex exists. And then 3 miles away in this other tower, there is 25 girls who are 11 going on 12, and they have been raised this whole time to not know that the male sex exists. So it's basically what happens when boy meets girl and finds out the other exists, and what happens and what ensues in this crazy, horrific thriller. And it is quite insane, but I really liked it. This was a book that kept me up at night, and I read it quite quickly. It was a page turner, to say the least. I guess maybe it started a little slow, but you have to get a feel for the backgrounds of these kids and kind of like how they think and feel, and it builds up nicely, and then it starts to chug ahead at full steam, straight ahead. And oh man, what a ride. So yeah, Inspection by Josh Malerman. I liked all of these books quite a bit. The only one I felt kind of like it was alright was The Only Good Indians, which you'll be able to see in my standalone review for that one. And I'll link that one down in the channel as well if you haven't had a chance to see that. So yeah, that was my wrap up for January. I think we had a pretty good variety. We had some nonfiction, some horror. We had a book that was made from a movie, fiction. A couple of those were like fiction on the edge of fantasy, I feel. But I don't know. Good variety overall. And then heading into February, I got a few on the list. So that'll be another video. But thank you for joining me today in the Book Nook. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Anywho, till next time.